Tiffany, hey girl, hey. Okay. So a little bit higher today. Streaming from my iPad on Facebook today. We're gonna see how this work out. Hold on. Peaceful greetings. Hi, y'all. Oh, I just want to. All right, beautiful people. Happy Thursday. Happy Thursday. It is August the 11th, 2022, day 183 of year 4 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, another 4-year consecutive day count, day 1,201, 1201. All right, y'all, we're picking back up in the book of the Ark of Bond in Oahspe on page 397. Lisa. Hey, girl. Hey. Leisha. Hey, girl. Hey. I almost forgot how to pronounce your name. I got to remember. It sounds just like my sister's nickname. Tikva. Hey, girl. Hey, Vinette. Shalom. Audrey. Shalom. Anita. Greetings. Mom. Shalom. Shalom. All right. Father, we thank you that you are the best puzzle creator. Because the whole life seemed like a puzzle. We got to put all our pieces together. That's why I chose that one for today. All right, y'all. Page 397, chapter 4. No, sorry. I'm looking at the top part, bottom part, chapter 5 at the bottom, the book of the Ark of Bond. All right. For 40 days, Capella remained in Maxsabi, teaching and helping the people. And on the 40th day, he said unto them, I go now, the Father desireth me. Be ye faithful unto Jehovah and maintain the sacrifices, worship. Remember here when they talk about sacrifice, they ain't cutting up no animals, no nothing. Their sacrifice is worship, right? Matter of fact, even King David said in the book of Psalms that he offers the bulls of his lips, right? The bulls of his lip, or the sacrifice of the bull of his lips. This animal right here, the ongui, the sacrifice of praise and thanksgiving. That's the sacrifices we offer to the Creator. Be ye faithful unto Jehovah and maintain the sacrifices, worship. The eye of Jehovah is upon you. His ear heareth not only your spoken word, but the thoughts in your hearts. In time after this, I will come again unto you and restore your rites and ceremonies. Jehovah said unto Capella, even as thou hast done in Hasa goeth, so shalt thou do in Tibeth Kilrath. For thither will I also bring my chosen from the province of Usitra. So Capella went to Tibeth Kilrath, where were assembled more than 700 faithists, and they feared him, saying to one another, is this not someone sent of the king to entrap us? But when Capella beheld, they feared him, and he said unto them, he who hath faith in Ormazd, fear nothing in heaven or earth. For the Father appointeth a time unto all peoples, nor can they make it more or less. Throtana, one of the rabbis, said unto Capella, art thou indeed one of us? Capella said, because I am as I am, I cannot answer thee. If I say that I am of thy race, then will not thy people be restored to liberty? For I would suffer death, being a teacher of thy people. If I say I am not of thy race, then thy people will not have faith in me. So remember, when he was born, he is of them. So remember, when he was born, an angel showed up to his mother and let her know that her son would be taken and be given to the queen, right? So the queen could raise him, and the queen would raise him as her own child, but not to fret. She would be called in as the child's nurse to nurse him, and she was still with him all his life, right? But never once revealing that he was actually her son and not the son of the queen, right? All of this was set up by the great creator in order to free the people a little bit later on, right? But he had to, it had to go this way for it to happen, right? So now they're at a point, a few of the people believe him. Excuse me. I need some water. Hold on. Sorry, y'all. I should always have my water ready at the go. Sorry. Some of the people don't believe him. They think it's a trap just to find out who is still worshiping the Great Spirit. So that's why they kind of stand offish a little bit. So that's like a quick recap of what happened yesterday. Okay. Verse 5. I say unto thee, I am but a man, even as thou art. Neither am I pure and good, for there is but one pure, the Creator. Therefore, put thy faith in Jehovah, and wherein my words and my labors are good, render unto me even as to any other man, no more nor less. And yet, even as thou believest in the ever present, so do I. As thou believest not in a man God, so do not I. Are not all men brothers, created by the same Spirit? Because the kings acknowledge not this doctrine, they persecute and outlaw thy race. To restore thy people, who are my people also, am I sent into this world. My labor is now upon me, and for that purpose I am here with thee and thy people. This land around about I bequeath unto the faithless, and they shall settle here and till the soil and reap the harvest, and shall not be driven away. And in the time to come, I will provide teachers, and the faithless shall have the right to obtain knowledge. But Capelia built altars for the multitude, saying to them, First of all, thou shalt dedicate to God all things thou puttest thy hands to, for without the rites of bestowal upon the Great Spirit, thy people cannot be in harmony. To neglect the rites is to neglect all things. Know ye the doctrines of the ancients? None of the rabbis could answer Capelia, and so he said, Ormas provided your servant with great learning. For this I am sent to you. Know ye then the doctrines of the ancients, even from the time of Zarathustra and Brahma. Hey, son. Okay, so because they were kicked out of everywhere, they weren't allowed to learn, which is one of the reasons Capelia had to grow up in the king's house or the queen's house, so he could get that training and everything that was outlawed for all the faithists, right? Okay. Verse 7, I read again. This land around about I bequeath unto the faithless, and they shall settle here and till the soil and reap the harvest, and shall not be driven away. And in time to come, I will provide teachers, and the faithless shall have the right to obtain knowledge. Capelia built altars for the multitude, saying to them, First of all, thou shalt dedicate to God all things thou puttest thy hands to. For without the rites of bestowal upon the Great Spirit, thy people cannot be in harmony. To neglect the rites is to neglect all things. Know ye the doctrines of the ancients? None of the rabbis could answer Capelia, and so he said, Ormas provided your servant with great learning. For this am I sent to you. Know ye then the doctrines of the ancients, even from the time of Zarathustra and Brahma. To rise with the sun, to bathe the body once a day, to eat no flesh nor fish, to pray to Ormas at sunrise, at high noon, at sunset, and before lying down to sleep. So back again to this thing about prayer. Should we pray? We absolutely should. Set up 11. Shalom. Shalom. Tabitha. Shalom. Elijah. Grand Rising. I'll read that again. And we learned about this Earlier on, he's just repeating some of the things that Zarathustra gave to the people. To rise with the sun, to bathe the body once every day. Let me add to that. If you stink after you bathe, you probably should bathe again. I'm just saying. Okay. To rise with the sun, to bathe the body once every day, to eat no flesh nor fish, to pray to Ormuz at sunrise, at high noon, at sunset, and before lying down to sleep. It looked like Daniel kept to that. Verse 11. Certain philosophers, wise in vanity, said, to rise an hour after the sun is no sin. To bathe 1 day in 7 is sufficient. To eat fish flesh, which is of cold blood, is no sin. Now behold, it came to pass that they laid in bed 2 hours and ceased to bathe altogether. And as to eating, they halted not with fish flesh, but ate all flesh. And sin came upon them by their behavior. They cut themselves off from the Father, right? So what this pretty much said is, once you start compromising, you're going to start compromising more and more until you find yourself somewhere you never thought you'd be, right? So bathe at least once a day. No flesh eating at all. I'm going to read it all over again. Listen. Verse 10. To rise with the sun, to bathe once every day, eat no flesh nor fish, to pray to Ormuz at sunrise, at high noon, at sunset, and before lying down to sleep. Certain philosophers, wise in vanity, said, to rise an hour after the sun is no sin. To bathe 1 day in 7 is sufficient. Once a week? Bruh, I knew you was tripping right there. Certain philosophers, wise in vanity, said, to rise an hour after the sun is no sin. To bathe 1 day in 7 is sufficient. To eat fish flesh, which is of cold blood, is no sin. Now behold, it came to pass that they laid in bed 2 hours. They ceased to bathe altogether. And as to eating, they halted not with fish flesh, but ate of all flesh. And sin came upon them by their behavior. They cut themselves off from the Father. Be ye scrupulous in following the text. And as to him that openeth the door for disobedience, have nothing to do with him or his philosophy. Capelia asks, why doth one man a good act rather than a bad act? Why doth another man a bad act rather than a good one? The rabbis said, the first is the speech of Ormuz. The second is the speech of Satan. For as these dwell in men, so do they manifest. Capelia said, I am pleased with the answer, for which reason I have before commanded you to build altars and do sacrifice. Remember, sacrifice is worship. Worship, not killing animals. Because remember, you're not even to eat fish nor flesh. So ain't no point in cutting them up or sacrificing them, my G. Right? Capelia said, I am pleased with the answer, for which reason I have before commanded you to build altars and do sacrifice, for these are the expression of your souls, which testify ye rather would serve the Creator than the destroyer. This was also of the ancient doctrines of Zarathustra, but certain other philosophers, vain in self-knowledge, said, cannot a man worship in the soul and without building an altar of stone and wood? And the multitude hearkened unto them. And they afterward went further and said, why worship at all? So they fell in darkness. A soul without an out. Ooh, my goodness. Let me get y'all highlighters. Listen, this goes back to the question. I love it that they change their name ever so often. My wonderful friends that reside in Europe, listen, asking about if we should pray. Listen, hold on, listen. Let me read it all again before I even finish it. Verse 15. This was also of the ancient doctrines of Zarathustra, but certain other philosophers, vain in self-knowledge, said, cannot a man worship in the soul and without building an altar of stone and wood? And the multitude hearkened unto them, And they afterward went further and said, why worship at all? So they fell in darkness. A soul without an expression of worship standeth on the brink of hell. Let me read it again. A soul without an outward expression of worship standeth on the brink of hell. Shebrew, hey girl, hey. This might possibly be our title today, simply because we've been talking about it. A soul without an outward expression of worship standeth on the brink of hell. To see an altar as we pass along enforceth upon us the thought of worship, and o'er minds the Creator, it leadeth the soul upward. To see evil or the temptation of it is to lead the soul toward darkness. Therefore, let men and women be discreet of their persons, but make the altars of sacrifice numerous. Remember, sacrifice is worship, prayer, right? Talking to the Father. It is our lifeline to the Father. Otherwise, we become disconnected. Verse 17, Capilla asked, what is the first poison? The rabbis knew not how to answer. Perceiving Capilla had great learning and wisdom. Capilla said, the first poison is self. One man saith, rites and prayers are good for the stupid and unlearned. I need them now. Oh, this is getting into it. Listen, I'll read it again. This is so good. Capilla asked, what is the first poison? The rabbis knew not how to answer. Perceiving Capilla had great learning and wisdom. Capilla said, the first poison is self. One man saith, rites and prayers are good for the stupid and unlearned. I need them not. I say unto you that that man is drunk on the first poison. Let not his breath breathe upon you, for here entereth the wedge of destruction. I like that too. We got to be careful, careful. I'm talking to us. I'm talking to us. I'll read it again. Capilla asked, what is the first poison? The rabbis knew not how to answer. Perceiving Capilla had great learning and wisdom. Capilla said, the first poison is self. One man saith, rites and prayers are good for the stupid and unlearned. I need them not. I say unto you that that man is drunk on the first poison. He's drunk on self. Let not his breath breathe upon you, for here entereth the wedge of destruction. Capilla said, what is the second poison? But when he perceived none could answer, he said, the first leadeth to the second, which is the desire to lead others and rule over them. Hatai, let's just say Hatai. Hatai, one of the rabbis asked, how can we get on without leaders? Capilla said, suffer no man to lead you. Good men are expressions of the all light. That's so good, right? Capilla asked, what is the best and yet the most dangerous thing? Some replied as to one thing, and some as to another. Capilla said, the best and most dangerous thing is speech, to talk of good things, of delights, of love, of Ormaz and his wonderful creations, of life and death, of everlasting happiness. These are good speech and give the soul great happiness. To talk of evil, of dark deeds, of one's neighbors, of disgusting things and words. These enrich Satan's harvest. Certain three men traveled through a city, and when they returned home and the neighbors assembled to hear the story of their travels, one of the travelers related all he saw, good and bad. Another related only all the bad things he saw, and the other one related only the good things he saw. the delights and most beautiful things. Which now of the three say ye doth most for the Father's kingdom? The rabbi said, the last one. Capilla said, true. Be ye then like him, even to one another. For by this course only is speech not dangerous, but of profit unto the world. Verse 21, page 400 down at the bottom. Sufficient is the number of evil men to relate the evils in the world. Relate ye the good, for by constantly walking in clean ground, ye shall remain clean in word and deed. Search ye both spirits and men, not for the brilliancy of speech, or oft its brilliancy hideth its poison, or stealeth on the senses unaware. But search their words as to holy ideas and good delights to make man rejoice in his life. That was good. Let me read it again. Search ye both spirits and men, not for the brilliancy of speech, for oft its brilliancy hideth its poison, or stealeth on the senses unawares. But search their words as to holy ideas and good delights to make man rejoice in his life. He who harpeth on deceivers and liars and debauchees is a fireman for Satan's hells. Reply not to him, lest your speech become a snare to entrap yourselves. Woo! I like all of that. Them last two verses. And that was the end of chapter, what was it, chapter 3? I'm sorry, chapter 5. I'm putting myself together with these Roman numerals this morning. 6, chapter 6, at the bottom of page 400. For 3 years, Capilla traveled over the land of Vidu, east and west, north and south, establishing the faiths wherever he found them, and he denoted to them whatever lands laid waste and not tilled, but he touched not any land whereupon other people dwelt and tilled the soil. Let me read it again. For 3 years, Capilla traveled over the land of Vidu, east and west, and north and south, establishing the faiths wherever he found them, and he donated to them whatever lands laid waste and not tilled, but he touched not any land whereon other people dwelt and tilled the soil, right? So the land that was free and untilled, because if you found some land that was tilled, it's possible that it belonged to somebody else, somebody taking care of it. He didn't go give them nobody else's land. He didn't usurp anybody's authority. He didn't take their possessions from them. You don't kill all the people who live in here and you take over their land. Absolutely not. It's enough land here for everybody. We're going to find a portion that nobody owns, and I'm going to bequeath this to you. Remember, he had the authority. He was the king's son, right? Or the queen's son. Yeah, I guess would be the king's son too, right? Who gives power to people to purchase and acquire lands, right? So he had the power to do all of this, not just spiritually, but also naturally because of his position, right? He's setting his people up for good, for good. Stephen, shalom, shalom. For 3 years, Capilla traveled over the land of Vidu, east and west and north and south, establishing the faiths wherever he found them. He donated to them whatever lands laid waste and not tilled, but he touched not any land whereon other people dwelt and tilled the soil. And it came to pass, the servants in the provinces fled from their masters and went and dwelt in the places of Jehovah to so great an extent that the governors and sub-kings complained against Capilla, and he was reported to Yokorana, the king in chief, Capilla's foster father, and the king sent a commission summoning his supposed son. Go ahead. Set apart said, sounds like what Malachi said last night. I'm nosy. I missed what he said. What he said, y'all. What he said. Sometimes, y'all, I be trying to catch everybody lives, but with me having to focus on paperwork and stuff like that. By the end of the day, I'm tired. I be trying to listen to y'all while I be working, but I don't be catching everybody. Okay, type out what he said, y'all. I missed it. Or I'll probably go back to his channel sometime today or later today, or probably definitely by the end of tomorrow to watch his video he said last night from last night. Okay. And the king, we're at the end of verse 2. And the king sent a commission summoning his supposed son to the capital to answer the charges against him. When Capella was before the royal council and demanded by the king why he had come, Capella said, "The servant of the great king answereth, his words are bound words. Whatsoever cometh out of Capella's mouth, Capella holdeth as his. There be such as maintaineth that man whose tongue is moved by the spirits of the dead is irresponsible for his words." I'm gonna read that again. Whatsoever cometh out of Capella's mouth, Capella holdeth as his. There be such, okay, so pretty much saying whatever he speak, he take full responsibility for what it is he speak. And other people saying, well, it's other people who talk by the lips of dead man, and they completely don't. They said those aren't in their words. There be such as maintain that man whose tongue is moved by the spirits of the dead is irresponsible for his words. Capella creepeth not through so small a hole to be master of one's flesh and desires and passions and words. These are great gifts indeed. Let's highlight that. Because Father, help us all. Help us to control our flesh and our mouth. Capella creepeth not through so small a hole to be master of one's flesh and desires and passions and words. These are great gifts indeed. Capella professeth these. Therefore, Capella bindeth himself in every word. Know then, most royal council, servants to our great king, Yokorvana, Capella was summoned here by the king to answer certain charges made by members of the royal council. These charges prefer that Capella hath found certain colonies which have attracted away the servants of the sub-kings and of the rich, and thereby sowed disobedience in the remainder. So they're getting mad that he's giving ground to the faith. It's like, you taking them away from the work of the king. What are you doing? Like, you're in disobedience to the king's orders. Great spirit. There y'all go. Shalom, shalom, love and light. Of my friends from Europe. I'm not sure how long y'all been here, but you got to go back to the last chapter, chapter 5, towards the end, and listen to what it said about prayer and worship. Y'all will love it so much. Look, verse 4, page 401. Know then, most royal council, servants to our great king, Yokorvana, Capella was summoned here by the king to answer certain charges made by members of the royal council. These charges prefer that Capella have founded certain colonies which have attracted away the servants of the sub-kings and of the rich, and thereby sowed disobedience in the remainder. Capella is come to answer these charges. Hear ye then Capella's answer. Capella, being heir to the throne, besought the king to leave to travel. And the king said unto him, whatsoever thy soul observeth, that may be good for the united kingdoms, do thou. Said not the king this? And also remember, just in case you forgot, probably ain't got nothing to do with what we reading at the moment, but remember, when Capella was born, before he was taken from his mother, remember, it was revealed to us that from birth he was Anayesu, and he could Sargis, and he could Suis, right? So he had all the spiritual gifts, right? Ayesu, he was already connected with the Father and could hear his voice directly without the help of anybody else, right? He could Suis, meaning he could prophesy, give judgment, because he was in direct connection to where other people um or other people to make prophets or seers, they put the plate on their forehead to press down till they got to the frontal lobe, the pineal gland region, in order to cause judgment and prophecy to flow through them, right? And it said that the Great Spirit allowed them to do it like it was a thing, and they did it. He allowed it, right? Because, and his reason for allowing the, let's say, the enemies to do that is because in order to reach them, he said they will listen first to their own before they listen to one of the faithers. So that in that way, at some point in times, he was able to get true words through to them when they weren't put onto a bunch of shenanigans by their people, right? Okay. So remember Capillion, he was directly connected to the Father. He was an ISU from birth. He could suis and he could sargus. Sargus meaning manifest his body. If he was a spirit, he could manifest his body materially, right? You can if you can do that, you can also travel places as well and take your body along. We ain't getting on into all that, but just remember, he can do all of these things. Verse 5. Capilla is come to answer these charges. Hear ye then Capilla's answer. Capilla, being heir to the throne, besought the king for leave to travel. And the king said unto him, whatsoever thy soul observeth, that may be good for the kingdoms, do thou. Said not the king this? Yoko Rana said, yea, my son. Thereupon Capilla said, when Capilla traveled near and far for 9 years, his heart was sick because of the misery of the poor and the glory of the rich. He beheld many forests and many plains where no man dwelt. And he said unto himself, let the poor come hither and live. Yet he called not any poor man. Was it? Yet he called not any poor. Yet he called not any poor man. Was it then an evil for Capilla to say this to himself? The king said, surely not. Then Capilla went on. After a long season of idleness, Capilla went the second time to travel. And when he came to the forests and plains, behold, the poor were gathered together, and yet more coming. So Capilla went amongst them to show them how to dwell together wisely. Was this an evil in Capilla? The king said, nay, of a truth, it was good. Then Capilla said, in a little while they discovered it was good for them to dwell together and to help one another. And the news spread abroad, whereupon the servants of the governors and the rich ran away from them. Is it not just to say of the king and governors and rich men that they are driving their servants away from themselves because of hardships which are greater than the hardships of the gods? The king said, a good proof. But why sayest thou the gods? These people, for the most part, believe not in the gods, and many of them, I hear, are believers in the Great Spirit. Capilla said, thou sayest truly, O king, but that is their matter, and not Capilla's. The king said, thou art right, my son, but how sayest thou of education? Shall not the laws be maintained? So remember, the faithists were not allowed to get education. He said, now they learning. What you gonna say about that? Gloria, hey girl, hey. What you said? Great Spirit sounds like what the Native Americans say. Oh yeah, it gets into that a little bit, right? The king said, thou art right, my son, but how sayest thou of education? Shall not the laws be maintained? Capilla said, art thou the king or merely the servant of the dead? Shall Capilla, all right, son, love you. Shall Capilla call him father, who is only a servant to carry out the laws of the dead? If so, then hath Capilla sinned against the law. But hear ye, who are of great learning. But hear ye, who are of great learning. Do ye obey one law of the ancients and not another? The law of the ancients that was with the death of the king. What? I'm reading too fast. Oh, okay. Boy, they need to put some commas in here. Look. The law of the ancients was that with the death of the king, all laws died, and whoso became king afterward must need make new laws of his own. The law against educating the faithless is a law of the ancients. Let Capil's accusers find which they will. For if they stand by the laws of the ancients, then indeed we have no laws, and the king and no king nor sub kings. How wise was him to put it this way? Listen, let me read this again. The law of the ancients was that with the death of the king, all laws died, and whoso became king afterward must need make new laws of his own. The law against educating faithists is a law of the ancients. Let Capilius accusers find which they will, for if they stand by the laws of the ancients, then indeed we have no laws, and no king nor sub kings. If they repudiate the laws of the ancients, then Capilia hath not sinned against any law. Now that was wisdom. Yokorvana said, "Thou art acquitted, Capilia. The laws of the ancients cannot bind any. The laws of the ancients cannot bind thy king, nor the king's kings. Touching these matters, then, the royal council shall make new laws. And since Capilia hath not contravened any law, neither shall the new laws interrupt the orders of the state as they are now." Wow. I gotta highlight all of this. This is good. The law of the ancients. Verse 12. Because of Capilia's presence in the royal chamber, the power of Jehovah and his angels was great in that house. After this manner that followeth were the speeches of the sub-kings and governors. To permit great learning of the faithists is to overthrow Darius and his reigning gods and lords. For by great learning will the faithists ultimately become members of the royal council. Therefore, at all hazards, great learning must be prohibited. Prohibited. Great learning is any missile. I don't know how to say this word. Inimical. Inim, I think we said this before. This is a word I was talking about. Enemy, talking about Dora. Hold on. Inimical. I think it's inimical. Forgive me if I'm wrong. Great learning is inimical to good servitude. Jehovah said to Capilia, "Be thou present when these laws are passed, for by this means my holy angels will rule over the royal council for the good of all men." What y'all doing? Isaiah, why you always got to pick with her first thing in the morning? Isaiah. Isaiah. Stop. Why are you always trying to
tell her to stop? Ooh, what's that?
Move. Leave her alone. She's just trying to say something to Elijah before he pull off.
Did you get a new
No,
iPad?
I just put it on the stand. Stop messing with my toys. Leave it alone.
Did you get a new iPad?
No. Stop. Quit messing with stuff. Leave it alone. No, it's just a stand, boy. Listen. Verse 14, the bottom of page 402. Jehovah said to Capilia, "Be thou present when these I'm not ending anything right now. Go on back up. I am ending it. I'm ending it today. Go upstairs. Go upstairs. Verse 14. Jehovah said to Capilia, "Be thou present when these laws are passed, for by this means my holy angels will rule over the royal council for the good of all men." For 100 days the royal council discussed the matter, but the angels of heaven kept them divided as to opinion and belief, so that no law was passed by them. Now, after they had thus wasted much time to no purpose, Capelia asked permission to speak before the king and the council as to what was wisdom in the government of the nations, and it was granted unto him. This that followeth is then the substance of Capelia's speech. Bella, close that. All right, y'all. So chapter 7. Oh yeah, 40 minutes. Okay. Whoever is born into the world is in part processor of the world by fact of his birth.
Where's the chicken?
What chicken? Oh, you talking about? Girl, close that up. All come into the world naked and helpless, and they deserve our assistance because of helplessness. To help the helpless is the highest virtue. Two wise men are greater than one. A nation of wise men, what could be greater than this? Yet all men come into the world knowing nothing. To give them great wisdom is to make the nations wise and great. To open the avenues on every side to great learning is the foundation for a great kingdom. To have the soil tilled, is this not greater than hunting and fishing? To throw the lands open in the east and west, and north and south to the tiller of the soil, is this not the foundation of plenty? When the poor and the ignorant are supplied with what to eat and to wear, with a place to live, there is little crime, but great virtue, and such are great strength in that kingdom. They need to read this here in the Americas right now. To hold more land than one can till is to sin against them that have none, who have not wherewith to live or to earn a living. Yea, such a one is an enemy to the nation. There are two kinds of government. There are two kinds of governments. One is government for the government, and the other is government for the people. The latter government, the people will endorse, and by their wills make mighty. The former government seeketh to make itself mighty at the expense of the people. Such a government is in the throes of death. To make government and people one as to prosperity and peace, this is the highest government. For the government to render unto the people bountifully as to land and water, and as to great learning and to music, this is the wisest, best government. And after music, it has reference letter B. So let's hop over to the end of the book on page 459. And B says, everything that contributes to harmony between individuals and between individuals and the state is music. That's beautiful. Everything that contributes to harmony between individuals and between individuals and the state is music. Let me read this verse again. To make government and people one as to prosperity and peace, this is the highest government. For the government to render unto the people bountifully as to land and water, and as to great learning and to music, this is the wisest, best government. What man is there that loveth not liberty, the chief of all desires? Can a government abridge this without crippling itself or foretelling the love and cooperation of its people? To bestow liberty and to maintain it unto all people, is this the greatest good that a government, to bestow liberty and maintain it unto all people, this is the greatest good thing a government can do. But who shall say what is liberty and the end thereof? A man shall not have liberty that offendeth his neighbor, or depriveth him of virtuous livelihood. No man should run naked, nor should a man have liberty to go into another's field and take his harvest. How then shall a government take a man's possessions against his will? But he who hath received great learning will not offend by nakedness, nor by taking that which is another's. What then is greater than for a government to bestow great learning on the people? Is it not enough to say to the poor, here is land, feed yourselves? But men of great learning shall be sent amongst them, showing them how to till the soil, and how to build, and to keep themselves pure in soul and body. For great learning is not in the books only. Nay, there be men of great knowledge as to books, who are themselves gluttons and debauchees, and bigots and tyrants and base authority. Such men have not great learning, but in fact, great vanity. Two kingdoms lying side by side. In one are great philosophers and colleges, but the multitude are in wants. In the other kingdom there are no philosophers as such, nor colleges, but the multitude have plenty. The latter kingdom is a kingdom of greater learning than the former. For of what consisteth great learning, but in knowing how to live wisely? That's beautiful. That's a whole lesson or two, maybe a year course in itself. For of what for of what consisteth great learning, but in knowing how to live wisely? A few philosophers are not a nation. To bestow such knowledge on the people will enable them to live wisely and be happy to a good old age. This is the labor of the best great government. It is a common saying that such and such a king is a great king because, forsooth, he hath founded colleges. And this is no small matter. But how much greater is the king who hath founded 1,000 poor families and taught them how to live wisely? To make a law to prevent liberty, to bind slaves more rigidly, is to weaken the nation, to weaken the kingdom. For see ye, a man had 10 servants, and they were free. Then he bound 9 of them with chains and complained because they served him not well. He was a fool. To labor for one's self at the expense of the state is to rob the state. To hoard up possessions is to rob the poor. What treasure hath any man that he can take out of the world? Better is it to give it whilst one may, for tomorrow we die, leaving it to them that earn it not. They're going to get it anyway. The highest peace is the peace of the soul, which cometh of consciousness of having done the wisest and the best in all things according to one's own light. For after all, is not the earth life? For after all, is not the earth life, but the beginning, wherein we are as in a womb, molding our souls into the condition which will come upon us after death, in which case we should with alacrity, I said it right, alacrity, Laacrity, in which case we should with alacrity seize upon the passing time and appropriate it to doing righteous works to one another. I'm gonna read that whole verse again because it's so good. It's the last verse in chapter 7. The highest peace is the peace of the soul, which cometh of consciousness of having done the wisest and the best thing in all things according to one's own light. One's own light is the highest wisdom and knowledge and love that you know. Do it with that, right? Your own highest, best light, right? The highest peace is the peace of the soul, which cometh of consciousness of having done the wisest and the best in all things according to one's own light. For after all, is not the earth life, but the beginning wherein we are as in a womb, molding our souls into the condition that will come upon us after death, in which case we should with alacrity seize upon the passing time and appropriate it to doing righteous works to one another. 49 minutes. Chapter 8, page 404 at the bottom. When the king and the royal council beheld the great wisdom of Capelia, they were struck dumb in their seats. After a while, the king said, Was it not by blood that our forefathers established days, scattering the faithless with great havoc? Shall we gather up the escaped races and nurse them and have them turn upon us and bite us? Shall we not with our valiant arms defend Dias? Remember, he didn't turn from his wicked ways, right? Already, but y'all still following his commands that he gave to y'all when he was at the highest point of insanity. And they don't know that. To this, Capelia answered, sufficient unto his own battles is the God of Vidu. If the king must need fight Dias's battles, then Dias is a weak God indeed. Heaven forbid that Capelia believe in such a God or labor for one so weak. But thou art right, O king. By blood our forefathers established this. But where is there, either in ancient or modern learning, a commandment that Deus shall be maintained by blood? Didst not thou thyself receive a commandment to stop the sacrifice of human blood on the altar? Is it then indeed a holier place on the battlefield that these things must continue? Man loveth vengeance, and more for this than for righteousness he desireth to inflict or destroy others. Nevertheless, all things are answered accordingly as they are. Vengeance answereth vengeance, blood answereth blood, war answereth war. And the same rule applieth to virtue, which begetteth virtue, love, which begetteth love, peace, peace, good works, good works. For in these things our soul play a greater part than do our external bodies. One of the royal council said, how sayest thou of the rites and ceremonies? Capelia answered, without rites and ceremonies, the spiritual the spiritual person of the state and of the community and of the nation is like a man that have thrown away his clothes and then with disgust drowned himself. As soldiers of the army have drill, which is discipline, so shall the worshipers have rites and ceremonies, which are the drill to keep one's soul in reverence for the Creator. That is so good. I mean, that's probably good to me because I'm probably military. I understand that. Look. But it falleth not to my lot to say unto you what rites or ceremonies, for these also come under the head of liberty. Another one of the royal council asked, some men who are bad men have great pleasures and enjoyments. Some men who are virtuous and wise have great trials and misery. What then is the prize which thy philosophy offered to them that practice righteousness and good works? Capelia said, could thine eyes see as mine have seen, or thine ears hear as mine have heard? Then it were easy to answer thee. Nevertheless, I declare unto thee a great truth, which is also revealed in the doctrines of the ancients, that this is not the real life, but the embryonic state. Embryonic state. This is wonderful. Look, I just love this so much because I did not realize how much they repeat this in here. And before I even heard the word Oahspe, I was saying, y'all, the earth is like literally like a womb that's preparing us for when we pass from here, because we never die. We're spirits who never die. I was thinking about one of the questions, the infants who died in the womb or shortly after birth. Remember that list of questions they was asking the Creator? Like, how is it that the spirits carry their bodies around on the earth everywhere they go? Why don't they just have their spirits like we do? How come they can't pass through the earth down to the oceans like we do here? Like, they're really trying to figure out why we have to carry this what they call it yesterday, this hold on, let me go to it. Why do they carry around what they call our human body, y'all? Book of Leka. It's towards the end of Book of Leka. Oh, it's all the way back here. What they call our body? I forgot. I should have folded the page. Was it tattling women? Abundance, the question, mortal dies. On the other hand, his own child. Oh, drowning man clinging to a log. What they call our body? Somebody? No. Uh, I I think it was Earth something Earth soup, but it yeah, Earth houses. That's what it was. Earth houses. Our bodies. They called it Earth houses. They were trying to figure out why we carried these houses around with us everywhere we went, right? But this is like it seems natural to us. Like, how can we not go without it here? Yeah, Earth houses. Thank you, y'all. Thank you. Okay, hold on. Oh, now I lost my place where I was at on the Ark of Bond. Hold on. Okay. Verse 8, I'll read again. Page 405. Capilla said, could thine eyes see as mine have seen, or thine ears hear as mine have heard? Then it were easy to answer thee. Nevertheless, I declare unto thee a great truth, which is also revealed in the doctrines of the ancients, that this is not the real life, but the embryonic state. And many that have great pleasures and enjoyments in this life, waking up as babes in heaven, whilst many who are virtuous and wise, but suffer great misery in this life, wake up in heaven in strength and glory. More are trials and exertions to be desired than ease and enjoyment. For the former causeth the soul to look upward, but the latter causeth the soul to look downward. Nevertheless, severe trials are a great injustice to any man. When the king and royal council beheld that Capilla had greater wisdom than any other man, the king said unto them, no man in all the world hath wisdom sufficient to try my son. How say ye? And they answered, that is true. Whereupon the king said, Capilla, hear thou the king's decree, and it shall be a law unto thee in all the kingdoms of the world, which is, that thou hast been tried by the greatest king on the earth, and thou art acquitted to declare, but thou art acquitted and declared to be above the dominion of mortals. And thou shalt go whithersoever thou wilt in any land, doing whatsoever thou desirest, and no man shall arrest thee or forbid thee in anything whatsoever. And whatsoever law thou makest, no king shall make another law above thine to set it aside. Wert thou not my own son, I would say thou wert begotten by the gods. And oh, how little you know about this boy. Listen, the king's decree was recorded in the house of records, and copies of the decree sent to the. Yes. Okay. Tell dad, look on the back of his remote. I wrote dad on the back of his remote. That way he knows of a surety that it does, in fact, belong to him. All right, y'all. They got these we got these Roku devices attached to, because we got Spectrum out here. I'm so blowed that Verizon is not out here, so we can't have Fios, right? So we don't really have another choice. So Spectrum is literally like it hold a monopoly out here. So we found out that our smart TVs run the best with the Roku devices. So we buy these little things and we plug in the back of our TV that come with remotes, right? So it's one on every TV. And although the Roku remotes will work with every TV, what we found out is you can only get to a certain point with the remote. When you're actually trying to get to an app, it won't like toggle over to hit that. That's how you know you got the wrong remote for your room. So yesterday I was completely tired of it. So I found a marker and wrote on, I had to go test on all the remotes, and whichever remote worked for that room, I put that name on the back of that remote, because they walk around here with remotes like it's an extension of their hand, like all of them, right? And so all of them all day, like, why do you have? We're leaving out of the house. Why you still got the remote? Go put it back. Okay, let's go get back to the reading. Listen, let me read verse 9 again. Oh, that's a real long verse. I'm gonna read it again anyway. Oh yeah, an hour. When the king and the royal council beheld that Capilio had greater wisdom than any other man, the king said unto them, no man in all the world hath wisdom sufficient to try my son. How say ye? And they answered, that is true. Whereupon the king said, Capilio, hear thou the king's decree, and it shall be a law unto thee in all the kingdoms of the world, which is that thou hast been tried by the greatest king on the earth, and art acquitted and declared to be above the dominion of mortals. And thou shalt go whithersoever thou wilt in any land, doing whatsoever thou desirest, and no man shall arrest thee or forbid thee in anything whatsoever. And whatsoever law thou makest, no king shall make another law above thine to set it aside. Wert thou not my own son, I would say thou wert begotten by the gods. The king's decree was recorded in the house of records, and copies of the decree sent to the tributary cities and kingdoms throughout Vidu. Yokravana had also made a copy of Capilia's speech, and it was also recorded and signed by the king and council under the name the foundation of laws. Jehovah said to Capilia, I have suffered this land to endure war for hundreds of years, that they might be ready for this. Behold, they are not slow to accept doctrines of peace and liberty. Capilia inquired concerning the laws, and Jehovah said, trouble not thyself more. My hand is upon the king and council. They will pass laws endorsing what thou hast said. Go forth then, my son, amongst my chosen, and thou shalt establish them anew in rites and ceremonies. Let's just read one more chapter because we ain't gonna be here tomorrow, right? Because we're gonna read one more chapter. Chapter 9. When Capilia had come to west to Chaal, Jehovah said to him, send messengers into 12 colonies, which I will name to thee, to the chief rabbi thereof, summoning them hither, for thou shalt teach them alike and like. The colonies were Tadias, Luwalet, Hadrarax, Thawaka, Dormstadata, Gil Balatu, Yan, Themista, Barach, Heo, Ebotha, Ewin, and Sravat. And each of them sent the high priest, Rabbah, with 3 accompanying rabbis, so that in all there were 13 chief rabbis and 39 rabbis. And Capilia caused them to put on red hats without brims after the custom of the ancient Zarathustrians. Jehovah said to Capilia, choose thou 20 damsels who are young and well grown, and 20 dames who have borne children, and these shalt thou adorn with blue hats with ear flaps after the manner of the daughters of the Zarathustrian law. When Capilia had them clothed with hats and aprons, he caused the rabbis and the women to go with him to the summit of a mountain, so that they might not be approached by idlers or spectators without due warning. And on the summit of the mountain, Capilia said, when ye were babes, I prayed for you. Now that ye are mature, ye shall worship the Creator with your own words. Bring therefore everyone a stone and cast it down, for it shall be an altar before Jehovah for our sacrifice. And as I do, do ye. They all took stones and cast them into a pile. And when they were yet standing near, Capilia raised his hands to heaven and said, Father, when I was weak, thou providest for me. My mother and father and my rabbi prayed for me and taught me of thee. Wherefore I praise thee with thanks and glorification. Now that I am strong, I stand upright before thee and praise thee and pray to thee with mine own words, and not as the heathen who have priests to pray for them. Because thou madest me a man, and in parentheses, woman, if a woman was saying it, because thou hast made me a man, or thou hast made me a woman, me, I'm going to say woman, because thou, well, I'm reading it like I'm him. So, because thou hast made me a man, woman, I will labor to provide my, I will labor to prove myself before thee. As I have here cast down this stone, let it stand as my covenant to thee, that I will from this time forth cast away earthly passions and desires. And because I have raised up both my hands unto thee, lead thou me, O Father, in the right way. When they had all repeated these words, Capilla walked once around the altar, followed by the others, and he said, Jehovah, or Maz, Almighty, glory be to thee forever. For thou art on the mountaintop in the valley. Thy circle is the circumference of the world. I walk in the circle with thee. Thou art forever by my side. Thy light of the glory of my soul. Praise him, O ye mountains and valleys. Sing to him, thou moon and ye stars. His hand holdeth ye up. His breath moveth all things. In thee I live. Of thyself madest thou me. Oh, that I may not dishonor thy handiwork or make myself ashamed before thee. Because thou art ever present, I fear thee. Because I cannot hide from thee, I will be most circumspect in my behavior. That is beautiful. Capilla then sat down on the altar, saying, Go hence a little way, and then return, that I may teach you how to approach the altar of Jehovah. The people did as commanded, and when they came near, Capilla said, Who cometh? Now, herein are the questions and answers as Jehovah taught his children through Capilla. A worshiper of Jehovah, or Maz, behold the altar of my people, who are known by their piety and good works, and in helping one another. Who is Jehovah? The ever present. He filleth all places and space. He created me alive and taught me to adore him and his works. Why comest thou to this place above any others? If he be ever present, why not worship him in any other place? He sendeth guardian angels to abide with his children who are pure and good. These angels desire certain places and times wherein my soul may be given to Jehovah. Through his holy angels, he teacheth me wisdom and he teacheth me in wisdom and love. Why not worship the angels themselves, since they are thy guardians and benefactors? To call not on the name of any angel who is Lord or God is my religion, but to call on Jehovah, the great Spirit. Whoso calleth on the Creator will be answered by him who is the all highest. Ooh, that makes, ooh, listen, y'all got these angel books now. I know I done told y'all all about them. I got a whole collection of them, right? It's a lot of stuff in the angel magic books and all those things. But when you're praying to angels, you might put yourself in a position to be answered by somebody other than the Great Spirit or Yah, right? Don't do it, people. Know it's there. Understand what's happening. Don't fall prey to it, right? Some people couldn't even get through the lessons that I was teaching about it to teach you how to recognize it and not get caught up in it, right? I'm just saying. They ask, this is a ceremony. Why not worship the angels themselves, since they are thy guardians and benefactors? To call not on the name of any angel who is Lord or God is my religion, but to call on Jehovah, the great Spirit. Whoso calleth on the Creator will be answered by him who is the all highest. So after Creator is reference number one. And down at the bottom, it says, Whoso calleth on the name of angels or lords or gods will be answered by them. But whoso calleth on the Creator will be answered by him. Verse 18. How can Jehovah answer thee? Hath he lips and tongue and mouth? Jehovah is the soul of all things. He speaketh to the soul. His voice hath many names. By the heathen and the idolater, he is called conscience. What profit hast thou in worshiping him? I am so created because of the fullness of him in me. I desire to express my adoration and to commune with him. Whoso hath not this desire is an evil man. Will he answer thy prayers? turn aside from his usual course, and come especially to thee more than another? As a horse drinketh water from a trough, and so enlargeth himself, so doth the soul of the righteous man drink from the everlasting fountain Jehovah. And the soul of man thus enlargeth and accomplished in answer to its own prayer. Nevertheless, it all cometh from Jehovah. Neither turneth he aside from his usual course, for he is ever present, and thus answereth the prayer of the soul of man. What prayers answereth he, and what prayers answereth he not? He answereth the prayer for purity and love and wisdom and virtue. Whoso prayeth to him for permission to do good unto others, he answereth without fail. He answereth not selfishness, nor the prayers of the wicked. Wherefore the wicked say, he answereth not prayer. Capelia said, My beloved, when ye approach the altar of Jehovah, ye shall repeat the wise words I have taught you, but not aloud like the idolaters, but in whisper or low voice. What is the worship of Jehovah's chosen? And wherein differeth it from the heathens? Yes. Jehovah's chosen stand equal before the Father, and everyone shall work out his own resurrection, both in this world and the next. Like, man, y'all like asked that question like right on time yesterday. Maybe y'all read ahead, but I'm convinced that y'all didn't. Some of y'all, the group of people that asked the question, I'm convinced y'all didn't read ahead. So y'all didn't know this was coming. Like we was about to get into it deep. The question that y'all answered yesterday. Question that y'all asked yesterday. Look, listen, this is so good. Let me go back to verse 24. What prayers answereth he, and what prayers answereth he not? He answereth the prayer for purity and love and wisdom and virtue. Whoso prayeth to him for permission to do good unto others, he answereth without fail. He answereth not selfishness, nor the prayers of the wicked. Wherefore the wicked say, he answereth not prayer. So if your prayer is not getting answered, you might want to consider your ways. But it says he always answers prayers of righteousness to do good and to do good for others, right? You get immediate answers for those. He answereth the prayer for purity and love and wisdom and virtue. Wait a minute, Bella.
How you're not using your phone?
Because I'm using this. He answereth the prayer for purity and love and wisdom and virtue. Whoso prayeth to him for permission to do good unto others, he answereth without fail. He answereth not selfishness, nor the prayers of the wicked, wherefore the wicked say, he answereth not prayer. Capelia said, My beloved, when ye approach the altar of Jehovah, ye shall repeat the wise words I have taught you, but not aloud like the idolaters, but in whisper or low voice. Wait a minute, y'all. What is the worship of Jehovah's chosen, and wherein differeth it from the heathens? Jehovah's chosen stand equal before the Father, and everyone shall work out his own resurrection, both in this world and the next. Hence, they are direct worshipers, being taught to worship Jehovah with their own prayers and songs. Like all of this, we should highlight. So good. I'm just amazed that you asked that question. Not us, not even knowing. Well, at least me. This is my first time reading through this, right? Not knowing that that question was about to be answered in such detail. Listen, this is beautiful.
Mommy,
Yes.
you can cook us.
Yes, I'm gonna cook in a second. I'm almost done.
Transfer 3%. Who you transfer 3% to?
To the profit account, babe.
What?
To the profit account. Verse 28. Jehovah's chosen stand equal before the Father, and everyone shall work out his own resurrection, both in this world and the next. Hence, they are direct worshipers, being taught to worship Jehovah with their own prayers and songs. The heathen have priests to do worship for the people who contribute to them in money for the service. The heathen priests worship the spirits of the dead who call themselves Lord and God and Savior. The chosen children war not, resent not by violence, but answer evil by good and practice charity and love. The heathen, the worshippers of God and of Lord and of deists, and all other idols practice war, maintain armies of soldiers who are taught the art of killing with great havoc. They build monuments to men and otherwise blaspheme against Jehovah. They teach that Jehovah is void, but that he made himself into deist, a large man, and then created all things, after which he retired to his throne, leaving certain laws to govern his works. What is the Zarathustrian law of life? To eat not flesh of anything Jehovah created with the breath of life, to bathe once every day, to rise with the morning sun and be temperate in all things. What is the Zarathustrian fatherhood and motherhood? Wait a minute, I'm almost done. What is the Zarathustrian fatherhood and motherhood? To have but one wife, to have but one husband, to maintain the sacred maternal period. What was the Zarathustrian compensation? All things belong to Jehovah. Man is but his servant. The fruits of the earth and of all the labor shall be cast into the Rabbi's house, and by him delivered unto the needy. Why were the Zarathustrians persecuted and destroyed? Because they resisted not by violence, because they worshiped not the idols of the heathens. Had they no way of saving themselves? To that end, Jehovah gave them certain signs and passwords whereby they might know one another, and in time of distress assist one another to flee away. Why did Jehovah preserve his chosen people? By the laws of the circumcision, the faithists could only marry amongst themselves in order to preserve a knowledge of Jehovah, or Mas, amongst mortals. They who were holy were preserved. They who went after earthly things and after the idolaters were cut off. But even in this, Jehovah profited the seed of the faithists by raising up heirs of Suis amongst the heathen. In the last verse, Capilla said, teach ye these things to your children from their youth up, and enjoin it upon them to teach them to their children. That was beautiful. Yes.
Where are you going?
Girl, move.
Mom,
I ain't going nowhere. Move.
Mommy.
Look. All right, beautiful people. Let me end this and then we'll talk.
No,
Y'all just
Mommy,
standing
I cannot.
around. No, you can't. I'm ending it today.
Let us
All
be-
right,
let us
beautiful
be
people.
gone. So you can talk louder.
All right, beautiful people. That was our reading for today. It is Thursday, August 11, 2022, day 183 of year 4 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, and of the 4-year consecutive day count, day 1201. We read the book of the Ark of Bond in Oahspe. We started on page 397 and we paused on page 409. Oh my gosh. They just flew in the kitchen. Okay, y'all. So with that being said, we will not be here tomorrow because we are observing the Sabbath with this moon cycle. So I'll see y'all back here Saturday. Remember the weekend, 7:30, Saturday and Sundays, 7:30 a.m. Eastern time. If the moon cycle Sabbath doesn't fall on the weekend, then
Mom,
we're not there for that day either.
Mom, can you?
Wait a minute. Ask me that question in a second. All right, beautiful people. All right. So I will see y'all back here Saturday morning, 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And Father, we thank you for being the most extravagant lover of our souls. I love y'all. See y'all back here bright and early Saturday morning. Peace. I'm ending it. Back up. Bye, y'all. Enjoy y'all day.
No,
I know. I thought it was touchscreen. Stop.